The Pokemon series has been going on the up and up for years now, and with the release of Pokemon Go all the way back in 2016, it brought a whole new load of fans to the series. But the mainline games, for some, have started to feel a bit stale now, following the same rinse and repeat gameplay, and with the last mainline entry, Sword and Shield, it definitely showed that the series really needed a change. Cue last year when we received our first look at Pokemon Legends Arceus, an interesting new direction for Game Freak to go. It certainly got people's interest with its promise of gameplay changes and a more open adventure. Well, the game is finally here now, and is this what the series needs? Let's find out. First up is the story, and this is set a century before this land is known as Sinnoh, the region that we visited in Diamond and Pearl. This land here is actually called the Hisu region, and it was quite a dangerous place as Pokemon and humans didn't live in harmony. So this is quite a unique setup for a Pokemon game, as the pocket creatures are actually treated like dangerous creatures to avoid in this game. But the setup sees you playing as a young lad or lass as you join the Galaxy Expedition team to document and catalogue all the Pokemon to create the first ever Pokedex. Story-wise, it's quite an interesting setup and it does work really quite well. Most of the previous games sees you try to be the very best trainer about, and it was all very quite formulaic, but thankfully Arceus tells a different and enjoyable tale. Whilst it won't win any awards, it's still a great and interesting time with quite a few likeable characters. The only real fault I have with the story is a lack of actual voice acting, and it does kind of make the game feel a bit dated, so hopefully in a future sequel we'll see the introduction of voice acting. Time for the gameplay now, and this is the biggest change we've seen to the series in absolute years. Gone is the traditional linear template of going from gym to gym training up your Pokemon. Instead we've got a gameplay mix of Breath of the Wild, Monster Hunter and Pokemon Snap to make for a vibrant and exciting time. The biggest and most heavily marketed thing about the game was its open world that heavily teased its Breath of the Wild inspiration. And it isn't really an open world as such, taking a more Monster Hunter approach as you have your village area where you get your missions and stock up and sort yourself out before you go out. Then you head out to one of several areas to explore, battle and catch Pokemon. These areas themselves are actually quite big, way bigger than what you find in a typical Monster Hunter map. Take the first area, it's quite small at first, but as you go through the missions and gain access to the rest of the map, it really does open up and you gain access to the sea as well as the sky. It's quite impressive stuff. The several different environments have that typical forest, snow, beach and volcanic lands, but they're a joy to explore and really open up when you get your various mounts, allowing you to fly, surf and just ride quickly throughout the environments to find new Pokemon and secrets. Very much like the Let's Go games, Pokemon are out in the environment with no more random encounters, which is a big plus. It feels very reminiscent of Pokemon Snap, as you can see Pokemon in their environment just being themselves, and here you can catch, battle or just leave them to themselves. To capture Pokemon you can just throw one of the many Pokeballs at them. If you want to throw a Pokemon ball from behind, it increases the chances of catching them. You can even throw fruit to distract and try and catch them. Some Pokemon you have to sneak in grass and use stealth-like approach to avoid getting them angry. If a Pokemon gets angry, then the only way you can catch them is to battle them. So choose which Pokemon you want to take to battle and then throw them onto the battlefield to start combat. And it just feels so darn cool. Battles themselves play out in a typical Pokemon style fashion, but feeling much more like the anime as the battles are faster and feel better for it. The game even takes inspiration from Bravely Default, including a new power and speed attacks which allow for greater strategy and a risk reward to battles. Once again you drop your opponent's HP low enough, then you can throw a ball to catch them or just defeat them if you want. All your Pokemon gain XP after battle, so it does help build up your team, and you'll definitely need it as Arceus is quite a difficult game, especially from previous entries. I noticed other games, especially Sword and Shield, I was essentially on autopilot as battles were so easy and I didn't even lose a battle once. But with Arceus it took me by surprise and it's great to see that, so it's definitely worth grinding a bit, but thankfully it's not too much of a grind, you only have to do a few battles here and there. The main aim of the game now is to try and catch and research them all. Trying to fill out all your booklet with all the details may seem daunting at first, as there's several tasks you need to do for each Pokemon, which may sound repetitive, but thankfully you only have to do a few of them to reach max ranking for that Pokemon. Tasks include catching so many, fighting so many, feeding them, using certain moves and evolving them. It's a good mix of stuff and it's incredibly enjoyable just to explore and find new Pokemon. And the Pokemon on display here are a great mix of Pokemon from different generations. First up, your three starters are a mix of Rowlet, Ocelot and Cyndaquil. I picked Ocelot, but as I said, it's a great mix of Pokemon. There's well over 200 Pokemon here from all generations, with a bit more favouritism to Diamond and Pearl for obvious reason. But we also see a few new ones here with their own regional variants, but I won't really spoil any of the lineup as I know a lot of fans will be eager to discover these new Pokemon for themselves. But rest assured, it's a great mix of golden oldies and newer favourites. The game's main goal is obviously to fill out the Pokédex and gain enough levels so you can reach new areas, but the mainline mission sees you going to each area, helping out certain members with noble Pokemon. These act like boss battles and can be quite challenging later on, as they're quite a departure for the series and kind of act a bit like a third-person shooter, throwing bags to calm down Pokemon. It kind of feels a bit clunky at first, but I did enjoy them for how bizarre they feel. As for actual faults with the game, well, honestly, there isn't really much here, to be fair. Yes, the lack of voice acting is disappointing, but there's a solid foundation here for the series to move forward. But if I was being critical, then the environments, whilst big, there isn't really much secrets here or trainer battles. It's just Pokemon with a few collectibles and a few satchels to nab points for. It would have been nice if there was a few temples or gyms in the sequel. Also, some people may get confused with the Pokédex system, not realising that you only really need to do a few of the tasks, but grinding may also put some people off, but they're only slight nitpicks. Pokemon games have always been quite lengthy, but Arceus feels like one of the longest today as there's so much to do. You have your mainline story, which will see you take around 20 to 25 hours to reach the conclusion. Then you have the Pokédex to fully catalogue, which will probably last you another 30 plus hours. Then you've got all the side missions as well, so altogether if you want to 100% the game you're probably talking about easily 50 to 60 hours. But I have seen people on my friend list put well over 100 hours into it, and I can see why, as it's such an easy time sink. As for multiplayer stuff, unfortunately there's no online battles against players here, which is a shame, but I can understand that due to the battle system at play here. But we do have some fun online interaction, as there's trading here with other players locally or with friends, and there's the as aforementioned satchel system, which allows you to find players' other lost items and retrieve them for points and items. It's a nice little addition that does help you along the way. Onto the presentation side of things now, and when Sword and Shield first arrived on Switch, there was a few people disappointed with how the game looked, and it did lack in some departments. But now with Pokemon Legends, we honestly have a nice looking title here. There has been some people complaining that it looks a bit rubbish, but honestly, I like how the game looks. Yes, it could have been better, but I like the art style. It kind of comes across as sort of a pastel painting, and it is a big jump from the previous mainline Pokemon game. Blown up on the TV, the game does look nice, and I should imagine on a bigger screen it probably may do look a bit rough, but on a 32-inch TV it's fine. But on the OLED, wow, it looks spectacular. The colours pop so much and is lovely and clear, and it's definitely the best way to play. It all runs really nice at 30 FPS with hardly a drop in sight, which is great news. Also another positive that the game loads up pretty quickly. Whenever fast travelling or loading up a new area, it's all good stuff. It isn't all positives, however, that the game does suffer from some pretty bad popping, especially when riding mounts, as assets are popping in right in front of you sometimes. It isn't as bad as Sword and Shield open areas, so that's good, but as a first step into a new era for Pokemon, it's something to let it slide. Onto the audio now, and Pokemon Legends is a bit of a mixed bag. The soundtrack is actually pretty great, with many pleasant tracks playing in the background whilst exploring the open areas or in cutscenes. But the biggest problem with the audio is the lack of there is when it comes to voice acting. The Pokemon themselves speak, but in their usual cries from older games, and honestly it does sound quite dated. It would have been nice to see them talk like how they do in the anime, and the characters themselves don't speak at all, and it is really needed as the game features a decent story and a lot of dialogue heavy moments, so voice acting really should have been included, but hopefully that'll be something that'll be included in the sequel. Conclusion time now, and Pokemon Legends Arceus is the kick up the backside the series has needed for quite some time. Introducing major gameplay changes to the formula, it feels like nothing we've ever seen before, from its huge open areas, which are a blast to explore, to combat encounters feeling so fresh. It's also a lovely looking game. There's an argument to be had that it may be a bit repetitive, but it's the start of something special, and I can't wait to see where Game Freak goes with the next entry in the franchise. So with that, I'm giving Pokemon Legends Arceus an 8.5 out of 10 with the title of great. As always, thank you for watching my review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you could like and subscribe, that would be totally awesome. And as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, bye.